Good to see you. Lord's Day Live. Here we are. Thanks for being here. Bum ba da 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 bum ba da 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 bum ba da 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 Doodle Bible School. I decided to slow it down for the intro music this time. Did you notice? Oh, it's so good to see you. Thank you. I'm glad that you're with me. DBS, Doodle Bible School. Instead of vacation Bible, we're going to do Doodle, but you can do that all year long. You don't have to be on vacation. You know what I'm saying? Doodle Bible School. Gabriel's got a good one for us to doodle today. I don't know that I can pull this one off. Do you remember last time my hand was really sad? Well, I got to draw another hand today. Oh, pray for me. You guys know how this works, right? I mean, it's basic Bible. It's just basically Bible, you know. But we are experiencing Exodus with my man Moses, yeah. And we've been doing this for a while, you know what I'm saying? This is chapter 36. What is there, like 40 chapters? So we're like coming in close to the end of this thing. Now, I think I told you what we're planning to do. In order to complete this semester, we're going to go all the way through the last chapter of Exodus, and then we're going to summarize the book of Leviticus for the last half of our semester. Leviticus basically is a repeat of a lot of the rules and laws from the book of Exodus. And so then hopefully we'll move into Numbers. You know what they do in Numbers? They don't number anything. Well, actually they do, but it's a very minor part of the book. They actually go to wandering around the wilderness for 40 years because they weren't faithful. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We need to complete Exodus first, don't we? And Leviticus. I'm thankful you're here. Did I mention that? I'm just thankful that you're here. All right, guys. You know what we do in segment number 1? Have I ever told you? Yeah, I have? Well, we're going to do it again. Let's do the doodle. All right, get your doodlators. All right, everybody. I had to check last night. I got a pen here that's about out of ink. I may have grabbed the wrong one. We'll see. All right, here we go, guys. By way of review, there you go, 33. Moses saw God. 34 has to do the second version of the, not version, but the second writing of the Ten Commandments because he busted the first one. 35. Everybody see the 35? I should have shown this a little bit better last week so you can see. See here in the palm of his hand, that's the 3. And then the 5 is over here, the other side of his hand and down his sleeve. So that's the 35. I should have blown that up for you a little bit. And I probably should have done this one too. But anyhow, I'm going to try to draw it for you. This is going to be hard. 36 is the making of the temple. But if you read it, it's really a lot of it's about this idea of curtains and stuff like that. And so what I did here is I asked Gabriel, I said, draw me a hand. And of course, you still see the 3, right? In the palm. And then the 6 is a bolt of cloth. You've seen a bolt of cloth. Maybe you've gone to Hobby Lobby or something like that and got a bolt of cloth. That's a big old roll of cloth. All right, guys, here we go. Now, don't laugh. All right. All right, first thing he needs a sleeve here. All right. And then we're going to draw his thumb because his thumb is kind of important. And you kind of come down here and then his palm of his hand. See, that's our 3. Everybody got that one? You got a really sharp thumb there. But that's okay. All right. And then what you do is you draw the other part of his hand. His arm comes out here and then he goes like that, right? Okay. And then let's go ahead and get us our bolt of cloth here. So just a big circle like that. And of course, that's the 6, right? All right. And then put us a circle in the middle. And then around the edges, we can kind of go like this because that's supposed to represent the cloth. It's on that bolt. I don't know, guys. What do you think? It's not as bad as I thought it would turn out to be. I was really kind of concerned for this one. All right, you guys see the 3? All right, and there's the 6. Thanks, Gabriel. Another good clue. And I didn't botch this one too awful bad. Last week was horrible. Oh, I was ashamed of that one. Okay, here we go. Stick that one right up there for everybody to see it. He doesn't have any fingers. It's a big old hand here. He doesn't seem to have any fingers, but that's okay. All right, guys. Did you everybody do it? Good. Proud of you. Oh, my. So if I was going to ask you a question about segment number 1, so you're preparing for the final test, this would be the question. What is the theme of chapter 36? Making the tabernacle. Now, I'm going to say, as you look at this, you're going to say to yourself, I don't know. Maybe it ought to be, handing him cloth or something like that, which I can understand. But remember, what we have here is he's handing him a bolt of cloth because a lot of the tabernacle is made up of curtains. Okay, so Exodus chapter 36 is making the tabernacle. Oh, let's be silly. What did the policeman say to his ribs? I don't think I've ever seen a policeman sitting around talking to my ribs. Hey, how you guys doing down there? Let's see if we can count you. We still got all of you? Anyhow, what did the policeman say to his ribs? Well, he said, "You're under a vest." That's actually a good one. You need to write that one down. He wears a vest, so you're under the vest. But he also says, "You're under arrest." I thought that was really cute. And so I put it in our program so that you'd have it. So what you need to do is write that thing down. And then today at lunch, you need to tell everybody about it. And they'll giggle and they'll laugh and they'll giggle some more. Oh, dear. All right, segment number 2 is where we make a memory. Stick it right in there. All right. All right, in segment number 2, as we make a memory, I always provide for you a memory verse. And Moses always comes up here, splits the Red Sea, and then he says to us, hey, look, guys, take every line, say it 5 times. It happens every time. But anyhow, let's see if we can do this one. It's a little bit long, but it's okay. Our hardest part of this memory verse is not the length. It's going to be that guy's name. I don't like, this is a hard one too, but Bezalel is a lot easier to say than a Holiab. I don't know how we're going to get those guys' names. You're just going to have to go around the house and, just take one at a time. Bezalel, Bezalel, Bezalel. And then, after you've done that for about 13 days and finally got it stuck in your head, then you go with old Holiab. A Holiab, a Holiab, a Holiab. And then maybe you'll have it. So here's what you do. All lines 5 times. And Moses, and Moses, and Moses, and Moses, and Moses. I can do the 5 lines. I could do the first line 5 times if I needed to. And Moses. I could do it 7 times if you wanted me to. I probably could pull off 8 if you wanted. And Moses. It's that second line that's going to get me. Called Bezalel and Holiab. Say it 5 times with me, folks. Called Bezalel and Aholiab. 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 See, we done did it. And maybe you're going to remember it. I won't. 30 minutes from now, I won't be able to say it. Maybe that first line, and Moses. I probably will get that one. All right, so that's the way you do that. Now, again, if you can't get it that way, then you can always leave blanks, which really helps us out. I know this first one. Why'd I leave blanks for all the names? I mean, really, Sonny. And Moses called Bezalel and Aholiab. See, it hadn't been 3 minutes yet, though. But I've still got it up here. Oh, Bezalel and Aholiab. Bezalel and Aholiab. Anyhow, there you go. Put all the blanks in there, and then you go around the house saying all that stuff. You go around the house saying Bezalel and Aholiab, and somebody's liable to say, what in the world, have you lost your brains? And you have to explain to them, no, those are names in the Bible. Anyhow, there you go. Bezalel and Aholiab. Oh, you're too silly. You're so silly. Test prep for the second segment of this particular thingy-dingy is, who gave skill to every craftsman? I don't think we covered that, did we? Who gave the skills? Oh, we better back up. Bezalel and Aholiab. Okay, here we go. And Moses called Bezalel and Aholiab, and every craftsman in whose mind the Lord had put skill. So there you go. The answer to that question is going to be the Lord. It's right here. See, it's going to pop up. Watch. There it is. Who gave skill to every craftsman? The Lord. Oh, I love this little girl. She got pigtails that come down here in front of her, and then she's got big old fluffy things. It's so cute. That's the cutest thing you ever saw in your life. I love it. I'd tell you the joke about the peanut butter and the jelly, but what? She's saying, but what? That's not even funny. It will be. I'd tell you the joke about the peanut butter and the jelly, but I'm afraid you'd spread it. Get it? Jelly you spread on the toast, peanut butter you spread on the toast, but you don't want to tell the joke because then they would spread it all over everybody. You need to spread this joke at supper time. I already gave you a joke for lunch. Supper time, spread this joke. See the play on words on spread? Do I need to say it again? Bezalel and Aholiab. I got that stuck in my head. We're going to sing that probably the whole segment. Oh, dear. All right, so number three. I was going to say lastly, but we're not even close to last yet, are we? Here's my little buddy. He's sitting on the dock of the bay. Sitting on the dock of the bay, singing Bezalel and Aholiab. I just said, okay, we're going to ponder this passage. That's where you take the passage and you start to think really hard about it. Oh dear, it's covering up part of my, got to get rid of my hand here. 36, what is it? Making the tabernacle. Very good. All right, here's our passage for the day. And they received from Moses all the contribution that the people of Israel had brought for doing the work of the sanctuary. That's the tabernacle. They still kept bringing him free will offerings every morning, so that all the craftsmen who were doing every sort of task on the sanctuary came each from the task that he was doing. And they said to Moses, the people bring too much. The people bring much more than enough for doing the work the Lord has commanded to us to do. So Moses gave the command, and the word was proclaimed throughout the camp. Let no one or woman do anything more for the contribution of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained. That means they were held back from bringing, for the material they had was sufficient to do all the work and more. All right, we got three things we've covered so far. Number one, what kind of offering was it? Free will. We've talked about that before. That means that you want to give it. It's not something you're forced to give. The people bring much more than enough. So what took place? The people were bringing too much. They already had enough. And then lastly, who gave the command that, okay, guys, you got to stop. We can't take any more. We're having trouble storing it because we don't have any. And so Moses had the command given, nope, don't bring any more. So those are the first three. And there's two more. I always give you 5 questions in this segment, remember? He made bars of acacia wood. What kind of wood? Acacia wood. 5 for the frames of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the tabernacle at the rear westward. And he made the middle bar to run from end to end halfway up the frames. And he overlaid the frames with gold. Gold. So we got acacia wood overlaid with gold. And he made their rings of gold for holders for the bars and overlaid the bars with gold. So there you go. There's your 5 questions that come from this segment where we try to focus on the passage itself. So there it is. Pretty good? Yeah, I thought so too. I just figured out what's wrong with my picture up here. Notice Gabriel has got it, he's got it kind of 3D. It extends back here. I don't have any 3D going on, you see. I just got a one-dimensional. And so you really got to have something. I don't know if I can do this here, but you kind of go like that, and then you kind of come around here like this, and then it kind of comes back here like that. What do you think? Well, it's a little better. It's not a Gabriel masterpiece, but it's a little bit better. Oh, dear. Doodles. I love them. Okay, so back to our thingamajiggy here. These are the 5 questions that you're going to have. What kind of offering? Free will. How much? Too much. Who had to command? Moses. What type of wood did they use? Acacia. Very good. And what kind of metal did they put over it? Gold. You are so smart. All right, this is really cute one too. I like the guy with the mustache. What do you get if you cross a dinosaur with a pig? Jurassic pork. Have you guys seen Jurassic Park? Well, that's not this. This is what happens if you take and you cross a dinosaur with a pig. You get Jurassic pork. That's pretty good. Save that for bedtime. It's not quite as good as the other two, but you could have that one. That's all right. That's not too bad. You get a giggle for going off to sleep. See what I'm saying? Love the guy's mustache. All right, moving on. Segment number 4. This is where we pick something out of the passage and we make it apply to us. and we say, oh yeah, I can see how that changes my life today. And so as I was looking at the passage that we saw earlier, this is what popped out at me. So Moses gave command, and word was proclaimed throughout the whole camp. Let no one, no man or woman, do anything more for the contribution of the sanctuary. So he had to say, nah, you guys have given too much. Here's my question. Have you ever been part of a time when people gave too much? I have. How did it make you feel to be so generous? I loved it, you know. Then they actually said, guys, you have been so good. You have given so much. Thank you. But we can't take any more. Please stop bringing. It just made me feel so generous. How about you? It's such a good feeling in your heart. There's Trish up there in Pennsylvania. Thank you, Trish, for and the big birthday yesterday. How cool was that? Was it Lindsay? I think it was Lindsay had the birthday. Anyhow, we have we're back to our thingy dingy. Thank you, Trish. Love you guys. Have you ever been part of a time when you gave so much that it just made you feel so generous? All right, that's your question. Have you ever been a part of a time, and how did it make you feel to be so generous? That's your question that you're supposed to write for me on this particular test. All right, guys. So in my way of test prep, I basically say the same thing there. Have you ever been part of a time when people gave too much? How did it make you feel to be so generous? I think the reason I do it twice there is, I don't know. I don't know. I guess because I want you to see it, that this is actually going to be on the test. Okay? So, all right, there you go. Got it? Whoop! All right. What time do you go to the dentist? No time. I don't like going to the dentist. Actually, I got a really good dentist. We switched dentists recently. I had to have a root canal. And my old dentist, he couldn't do it. I guess he's not qualified or something. So he had to send me to another dentist. And I said to myself, to the other dentist, I said, well, you're great. Can I just stay with you? And he said, well, I'm not in the business of stealing anybody's customers, but yeah, I guess so. And so I stayed with him. And I've been back. I love this guy. He's just real gentle and stuff. And he gives me a whole lot of that stuff, so I'm not feeling it when they're... I don't know why I'm telling you all my personal business, but it's important for you to know it. What time do you go to the dentist? Tooth hurty. 2:30. 2:30. You go to the dentist when you're tooth hurty. That's actually pretty good too. So if you wake up in the middle of the night, you roll over and you say, hey Mom, I thought of another funny. What time should we go to the dentist? 2:30. And she'll say, go back to sleep and don't wake me up again. It's not that funny. Oh, having too much fun this day, aren't we? Can you have too much fun? I don't think so. And when you're learning Bible and having fun at the same time, it's like, woo! All right. Segment number 5, we're there. This is the last segment. Love this little lady. First in the history of Doodle Bible School that anybody's ever been happy about a test, and there she is. She's just thrilled. And you know why she's thrilled? Because she knows the answers. Bezalel and Aholiab. See, she's even got that. And so she's just thrilled. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Here are the questions that you're going to have. Oh, something froze up on the screen there. I don't know what that was. Anyhow, there we go. You got them? 36. I don't know. That was kind of weird. All of a sudden, I got still. I was still moving, but I got still on the screen. I'm going to get a drink. It's like I got all froze up or something. Maybe you guys didn't even notice. I don't know. Anyhow, there are your 10 questions that you're going to have on the final test. Remember what I told you? Bezalel and Aholiab. They're going to be the toughies, but I think you guys can do them. I think that's just part of the memory verse right there. All right, here, I'll do the Vanna White thing, and you guys take a picture. You ready? Did you get it? There you go. That's your final test. And you guys got it. I know you do. I just know you do because you're so great. This is Sonny Chalice saying to you, be there. Matthew 16:26. Well, my friends, if you found that to be effective, you'll never forget Bezalel and Aholiab. So it might be at least effective to that degree. Anyhow, would you consider supporting our ministry so we can continue to do this? I know we got little kids literally around the world who watch this and adults who watch this. And I'm so very, very thankful, especially for the adults who are using this to teach other children how to appreciate Scripture and to find it to be fun, not something that's mundane and boring, and not just telling the same 6 Bible stories over and over again in Sunday school, but we're moving all the way through the Bible. I think it's very effective. We need your support. Would you consider supporting us, please? Well, my friends, that leads us to prayer time. And before I get too officially started, let me just ask you to continue to pray for my son and wife, as every Sunday morning about this time, they pack up and they head about 30 minutes to another little community. And Gabriel preaches at Boydsville, Arkansas, every Sunday morning. Does a phenomenal job. But pray for them that they'll be safe and that'll work out. And then later today, my other son, who leads worship at his congregation, he'll come here, and we will all collectively as a family, about 1:30, 2 o'clock, we will have home church. And it's such a joy. Pray for us if you will, and I pray that you will be able this afternoon to have home church with your family too. It's the most intimate time of Sunday for me. I love it. Okay, that being said, I want to begin the list that I have of prayer requests. If you've got something, go ahead and mention it. Wisdom of the Ages class. This happens every Wednesday night. Had a really, really good really good class this past Wednesday night. I thought the previous week would really be the big one. We didn't have that many viewers for it. It was on politics. I thought, whoa, yeah, well, no. This one was on whether or not Christians should debate. And I don't know, we just brought in folks from everywhere. Anyhow, that's at 7 o'clock on Wednesday nights. You can see it live, or you can pedal backwards in my feed. The recording stays up for at least 30 days. Or you can sign up for our free e-newsletter, and it is part of the e-newsletter. Wisdom of the Ages. Every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, Dad's covering various things. This coming Wednesday night, he's actually going to cover the topic of should Christians go to war. I think it'll be really, really interesting. My father served in the military, so I know a little bit about his perspective, but I'm anxious to learn from him. Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Please join us. Please remember my father's eyes. He needs new glasses, and even that's not going to really solve the problem. Dad's got glaucoma, and he's losing his sight. And I pray that you will bless him by praying for him, that God will maintain his sight for him. I've also got a very dear friend out in Arizona that's struggling with his eyesight as well. And so would you pray for Henry also? Let's see. Next one. I wanted to mention this. Parenting, especially the man's role. I thought that this was, at first I thought it was funny, and then I looked at it and I said, that is so true. That's just like what's happening today. Fathers are so busy with all kinds of things, plus their big boy toys and their big boy projects, that they barely even know their sons. I read a study recently, and I can't even begin to go there, but I remember it was talking about the average number of minutes a day a father actually spends speaking to his son, and it was just a few minutes. It wasn't very long at all a day that he spends speaking to his son. And yet we expect our sons to grow up to be good men who we recognize. Anyhow, pray for parenting, especially the man's role in that. And young women, especially with regards to Titus chapter 2, verses 3 through 5, really discouraged this past week to have an online debate with a young lady who just dismissed Scripture outright, just didn't care anything about Scripture. And it's no wonder our culture is where we are. It's no wonder we're about to elect Kamala, this woke woman. Oh, don't get me started. All right. I'd also like to ask you to pray for our nation, the cruelty, etc. This is actually 2 memes combined. I saw this one up and I thought, wow, that's powerful. And we all know that it's happened at least twice, that God has directed that, nope, today is not the day that Donald Trump is going to be assassinated. At least twice that's happened in his life. And yet we find this survey by the Rasmussen poll, I guess that's how they say it, Rasmussen. 28% of Democrats say that it would have been better if Donald Trump had died. We live in a wicked, wicked world. I wouldn't pray this prayer upon Kamala Harris. I mean, I think she's a horrible, horrible person who's going to do horrible things to our nation, but I surely wouldn't have this perspective as the Democrats do. I mean, we live in a wicked place. And how about Israel and all that Israel has been suffering with regards to the world? It seems like everybody, including our own country, Biden doesn't have a backbone, and Kamala certainly is not going to have. Even our own nation is not standing with Israel. And boy, I'll tell you what, that's a horrible situation as well. Ukraine, remember them, please. Home church movement. I want to ask you a question here. I posted this past week, but I think it's a really important question. It's a nonsensical question. What's the best way, do you think, to teach the world a healthy family values? If we're going to teach the world healthy family values, which we're told to do, if we're going to teach them healthy family values, what's the best way? Maybe invite them to an institutional church building. No. How about invite them to a home church where they actually sit in your home and they see the way you interact with your wife, your children. They recognize all the pictures on the wall indicate family value. What about bringing them into your home? We have spent way too much time and way too much money building institutional church buildings, these cold edifices that I'm going to say later today in another sermon actually resemble the Tower of Babel. We spent way too much time doing this thinking this would solve the problem. And when it didn't, guess what we did? Well, we built us a fellowship hall. And then when that didn't work, guess what? We built us a gymnasium. It's like we have this mental craziness that we think that everything can be solved with bricks and mortar. It can't. You know what they need? Bring them to the house. Bring them to the home. One of the major mistakes we made during the 60s and the 70s when we were one of the fastest growing religious groups in America, one of the major mistakes that we made was we planted churches all over the place, and they began in homes until they grew too big and we couldn't get everybody in the house no more. So you know what we did? We built us a building. That just seemed like the natural thing to do. And that was the beginning of the end for us. The 60s and 70s, that was just a flash in the pan because we didn't do the right thing. You know what the right thing would have been done? Would take that family organization, that home church, and divide it and have another home church on the other side of the community. Yeah, sure, you can get together every once in a while, rent the community center or whatever it may be. But don't invest in these institutional church buildings that sit empty for the majority of the week. Invest in other home churches in another part of the community. I hope you'll be with me today at 10:30 live, because I'm going to present those very thoughts with regards to the Tower of Babel. All right, what else we got? Real quickly. Oh, yeah, Home Church Worship Guide. Let me blow that up for you so that you can take a screenshot of that. Those of you who are with me regularly, you know how it works, so I'm not going to explain it this time because I'm already out of time. Screenshot that and you'll have that for your own use. Got it? All right, good deal. Let's enter into the sermon segment this morning. Lord's Day Live sermon segment, thank you for being here. I really am appreciative. Grab me a little sip of water as we launch into Exodus Applied. Here are the 5 leading questions. I'll step aside so you can screenshot those or whatever. These are the 5 leading questions with regards to today's lesson. So if you're part of the School of Biblical Studies, all you got to do is really fill in the blanks and you'll have them for your final test. All right, got it? Very good. Exodus Applied, excessive giving. This passage is really, really special because Moses is literally going to have to put the stops on giving. It's just such a neat passage. But I want to talk about giving in the church today and excessive giving and how important that is. Being generous. We saw that last time, that God desires generous givers. And they received from Moses all the contribution that the people of Israel had brought for doing the work of the sanctuary. They still kept bringing him free will offerings every morning, so that all the craftsmen who were doing every sort of task on the sanctuary came, each from the task that he was doing. And they said to Moses, in other words, they've interrupted the work because they got so much stuff coming in. They got to spend time collecting stuff rather than doing the work. They said the people bring much more than enough for doing the work that the Lord has commanded us to do. So Moses gave the command, and word was proclaimed throughout the camp. Let no man or woman do anything more for the contribution to the sanctuary. So the people were restrained. I love that word. They had to be held back from giving. Restrained from bringing, for the materials they had was sufficient to do all the work and more. I want to talk about excessive giving, and I'm going to go ahead and give you my 3 points ahead of time because I want you to see how we're going to work through this. I want to give you an example of giving in the New Testament where they did basically the same thing as these folks did in the Old Testament. Then I want to talk about a New Testament passage that gives us the standard. How do I decide how much to give to God? And then lastly, I want you to think about the return that we get on our giving, what God has promised to do for us because we give. I want to say real quickly before I get to that third point that we don't give so that God will give to us. In fact, that's not going to get the proper return. Our heart has to be right. I just want God to be blessed. And God says that in that proper motive, he says, I'm going to reward that. I'm going to make sure that you get back. So keep that in mind as we get to point number 3. But let's go with point number 1 first. This idea that excessive giving. I'm going to give you an example of excessive giving in the New Testament. 2 Corinthians 8, verses 1 through 4. We want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in wealth of generosity on their part. For they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means, of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of the saints. There is a really difficult scenario happening down there in Judea. And the churches of Judea are under great suffering and they have great need. And the churches of Macedonia have found out about this. Problem is, they've got their own problems. Severe test of affliction. They got their own problems. They've got severe poverty that's happening there. But in spite of that, it says that this wonderful giving collection of churches in Macedonia, they say, or they beg, please let us have the favor of taking part. We want to offer. We want to be a part of this thing. I think that the illustration that is here is very, very important, because I think that elderships in our church today are not really recognizing the giving nature of our people. I find this to be rather common. When a legitimate need comes forth, people step up. They will begin to sacrifice and they'll give, much like the churches of Macedonia. I think the problem is that our elderships have made giving a common, mundane, regularly scheduled part. And most of the time, we don't even know where our money goes. We write the checks, slap it in the plate, and it goes somewhere, probably to pay the light bill, the heating, probably to pay to maintain the marquee out front, or make sure we get a new top on our pavement, those kind of things. And so we're not really invested in it, not really caring about it. It doesn't really hit our hearts because it's such institutional needs. Imagine if we would get to home churches rather than have all these institutional needs. I'll tell you what happens so often, and it's even happened in our home church. But so often if you give a person a legitimate need, not pay for the light bill, not pave the parking lot, not put new padding on my pew, not buy a new sound system so that we can continue our spectator worship services, but rather these folks, there's a burnout in the community. They have nothing. You bring that legitimate need to your congregation, you know what's going to happen? They will be just like the churches of Macedonia. They will jump at it. They will give. I think that we have really missed the boat, especially in the American church with regards to giving, because we don't give towards needs. We give towards wants, conveniences. We throw money at things. It doesn't really cost us. And so in the process, I don't really feel like I have contributed. On the other hand, when an elders, on rare occasions, they bring something to the congregation that legitimately is a need, people are suffering. I'm willing to suffer with them. Elders need to grow up, and they need to recognize spiritual maturity with regards to giving, I think. Number 2, it's not just the example of giving I want to share with you, but I want you to see the standard of giving that takes place in 1 Corinthians 16. Still writing to the same folks. Church of Corinth, Paul is going to say to a very immature group of people, he's going to say, okay, I'll tell you, this is the standard by which you determine what you should give. Upon the first day of the week, let everyone lay by in store as God has prospered him. I'll come back to that in a moment. That there be no gatherings when I come. I want you to notice, first of all, a little off topic, but I want you to notice that the giving was specific to the need. Paul says, I'm coming through, and so I want you to collect it every time whenever you get together on the first day of the week. Go ahead and collect that money because I'm coming through. This passage does not suggest that they continue to collect money on the first day of the week to just pay for whatever it may be. We know that the Church of Corinth started out as a home church, so they don't have all the overhead with regards to padded pews and paved parking lots and fancy marquees and sound systems. They don't have any of that. Okay, they don't have. So it was only when there was a special need. And Paul says, and there is a special need down there in Judea, so you guys get it together. I'll come through, and when I come through, I just grab it all, and I can take it. I don't have to go around to every house and collect it. That's what's happening here. But I want you to notice that the standard of giving is as God has prospered you. according to your income. I'm going to tell you that sounds really simple, but it's not. You need to look at your blessings. Look at what you're able to give to your family. Multiple cars, multiple cell phones, internet connections. We've got cable television. We've got multiple bedrooms in our home. We always have food in the... You've been blessed. That's why I've really been harping recently on individuals who I know in third world countries who are struggling just to put food on the table. I've got two very dear friends in Uganda right now who are struggling with their health. This past week, Cindy and I had to send them just a little bit of money so they could buy food for their children because he can't work and she can't work because they've had this horrible bout with the flu. And yet here we are, sitting in our padded pews with our vaulted ceilings, the vanity that we have surrounded ourselves with. You know how much you should give? You need to give according to what you have been prospered. And don't stop giving until you hurt a little bit. Because that's what sacrifices are really. If you don't hurt, if there is no inconvenience in your gift, it's not a sacrifice. I want to ask you to go the distance. Probably get me in trouble, but it won't be the first time. I want to ask you to stop throwing money in the collection plate every Sunday morning that you know is going to go to vanity. And start taking that money and actually investing it in folks who really have a need. When elderships mismanage money, when they require their flock to put money in a collection plate and then they mismanage it, that eldership, two things. They need to be resisted because they are being poor stewards, and they need to be replaced because they're being poor stewards. And so, yes, it is biblical to withhold your money from the collection at church time when you know that your money is not going where God wants your money to go. Have personal responsibility. Stop throwing money in the collection plate when you know it's not going to where God wants it to go. And then number 3, excessive giving. I want to show you the return that we have on our giving. This is an amazing passage. You've seen it before, but man, it just blows me away. God is so good. Give and it will be given to you, good measures, pressed down, shaken together, running over. I want you to pause there. Running over. That means that it's fallen on the floor. That's excess. Nobody knows how to give in excess like our God. Think about Jesus on the cross. This is the Prince of Heaven who came to live and die at our hands. God knows how to give in excess. And he says, if you will give with the proper heart, if you will give, he says, I'll give back. And it'll come so much it's just going to run over. But I want you to notice the standard here as we end. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. That's not just in amount, I'm convinced. It's also in motive. The heart says a lot about your giving. And if you give with the right heart, it's going to be given back to you. Remember the woman at the temple, and Jesus is watching, and you got these folks come through, and they put in a whole lot of money. And then you got the woman, she comes through, and she has just a little bit of money. And Jesus said, you see that? That woman gave much more than those men. You know why? Because she gave what she couldn't afford. That's huge. That's huge. There is nothing more valuable as far as being measured back for your giving, nothing more valuable than having Jesus brag on you. The well done will make it all worthwhile. And so as we review our points then, excessive giving, I gave you that example, the churches in Macedonia, how that they, even in their poverty, were willing to give. The standard of giving is, well, how much have you been blessed? All right, then that's how much you ought to give. That's hard. And then thirdly, the return on it giving. And when you have the right heart, when you give out of the right motives, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get back more than you gave. In fact, it's going to come back to you so much, you're not even going to be able to collect it quick enough because it's just going to be running over. God's good. You know what I'm saying? And he deserves for us to give back, appropriately give back. Excessive giving. All right, there are your 5 questions that we use to kind of summarize this particular lesson. Got them? Be there, Matthew 16:26.